Hey, wouldn't it be kind of funny if Matthew Colville's middle name was Mercer? Matthew Colville, one of the cool uncles of RPG YouTube, recently posted this great video titled, "How long should an adventure be?" which he kindly answered in the first 30 seconds.
My point is only that this kind of adventure, a short one, is better for us than big hardcovers like this.
My kingdom for a cloud, bro. Am I still recording? Oh, he explains that big hardcovers certainly have a place. Lots of people love them, but he says they shouldn't be the default format of an adventure because they set unrealistic expectations for players and game masters dreaming of a long campaign with an epic, satisfying conclusion in a world where most of us struggle to keep up with a weekly game night. So agreeing with the premise that short adventures are both easier to complete, more flexible and modular, even within a long campaign, and thus more conducive to regular fun game nights, I want to zoom in on the structure used by so many fun short adventures, the 5-room dungeon, highlighting some examples and detailing how to make your own fun adventure with this method, even outside of a dungeon. Because I'm Bob, this is where we learn how to have more fun playing RPGs together. And first, I do want to clarify something from Matt's video. These big hardcovers containing long campaigns are probably not the default experience. Dungeons & Dragons TM may be trying to make it so, but if we look at their output, they release about as many box sets and anthologies of short adventures as they do long adventures, not even tallying up all the short adventures in those anthologies or including the ones plugged into the setting books. And if we look at some actual D&D sales numbers, courtesy of Roll for Combat and Dungeon Craft, the sales of the 2014 D&D starter set alone exceeds the sales of every long campaign book that I have data for combined. All that to say, while a lot of GMs still buy the big hardcovers hoping to run them, most people probably do experience D&D through a box set. Now, Matt makes a great point that even the 2014 starter set adventure, Lost Mine of Phandelver, being only 64 pages, is still kinda massive for someone's first adventure. Compare that to, well, the one that Matt Colville compared it to in his recent video, and 8 years ago, his own little adventure, The Delian Tomb. And yeah, please let me know in the comments if you also can't believe it's been 8 years since Matt Colville started his Running the Game series. Concept: the tomb of a knightly order has been taken over by goblins. From the ground up, or down technically, the Delian Tomb was written as a dungeon. Entrance stairs down with goblins guarding the outside, leading to an old offering room where the goblins live, with carvings depicting the knight's deeds, then a pressure plate swinging axe trap in a corridor, a second room with a statue of the knight's leader, which happens to be where the goblins' bugbear leader hangs out, waiting for a fight, and finally, a secret door opened via riddle to the actual tomb with treasure and some undead. If anyone's keeping track, that's only like 3 rooms, but it is about 5 encounters depending on how you distinguish them, and they pretty perfectly reflect the rooms of the 5-room dungeon, developed by the Role Playing Tips blog around 20 years ago. Let's break it down. Welcome to my new cave. Room 1, Entrance and Guardian. There needs to be a reason why your dungeon hasn't been plundered before, or why the PCs are the heroes for the job. A guardian or challenge at the entrance is a good justification for why the location remains intact. Also, a guardian sets up early action to capture player interest and energize a session. And the Delian Tomb has some goblin lookouts guarding the entrance. Check. Room 2. Puzzle or role-playing challenge. The PCs are victorious over the challenge of the first room and are now presented with a trial that cannot be solved with steel. This keeps problem solvers in your group happy and breaks the action up for good pacing. I really keep hitting my head right here. This is probably why Colville's first draft of the Delian Tomb had the trap between the entrance and that offering room filled with goblins, but he later moved it because, in his own words, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to leave an offering to these knights after getting your head cut off. So with our room 2 as the room full of goblin minions, that could still make for a fun role-playing challenge, especially if your party is outnumbered or if they just prefer to make some kind of deal. Check. Room 3, Trick or Setback. The purpose of this room is to build tension. Do this using a trick trap or setback. For example, after defeating a tough monster and players think they've finally found the treasure and achieved their goal, they've learned they've been tricked and the room is a false crypt. Again, here's where our trap ended up, so it fits perfectly with the criteria, and so does the next room, literally being a false crypt to the leader of the knights. And it has that riddle, puzzle, secret door to the true tomb. Definitely check. Room 4, climax, big battle, or conflict. This room is the big show. It's the final combat or conflict encounter of the dungeon. Use all the tactics you can summon to make this encounter memorable and entertaining. In the Delian Tomb, this room is that false crypt room where the bugbear hangs out, waiting to be fought in a climactic fashion. Check. And room 5, reward, revelation, plot twist. It doesn't always represent a complication or point of failure for the PCs, but it can. It doesn't always need to be a physical location either. It can be a twist revealed in room 4. And with the Delian Tomb, we get a bit of all of that through the revelation that there is a true tomb, which is kind of a twist, realizing the false tomb was false, and the reward of whatever treasures were buried with these knights, or whatever boons they may bestow to adventurers who honor them. Check, check, check. Seems like I'm testing this mic over and over, and that probably would have been a good idea with the wind. So you can probably see why the 5-room method is so popular. Between a guardian, roleplay challenge, setback, battle, and reward, it includes all the main ingredients of a fun fantasy adventure, easily encapsulating the 3 pillars of D&D: combat, exploration, and social interaction. But you can also see from that example how the 5-room structure isn't set in stone. There's plenty of freedom to rearrange the pieces or connect them in interesting ways. In fact, that's one of the 2 things kinda missing from the Delian Tomb. Options for the party to choose their own path through the dungeon, which isn't really necessary for someone's first adventure, and then as Matt pointed out himself, a hook. It's best to have a clear setup for why the party should want to delve this dungeon. So now, let's walk through one of the 10 short and fun dungeon adventures going into my upcoming book, Delve: How to Build and Survive Deadly Dungeons, currently live on Kickstarter. And as of recording, this dungeon is just my own draft outline, subject to change, but if you like it at all, be sure to back Delve on Kickstarter through the link below. Tomb of the Sunken Star. Concept: underwater temple to an extraterrestrial being where stone skeletons are sacrificing villagers. And I think that's a solid hook. Your heroes should want to help these villagers, just as they should probably want to keep goblins from defiling a knight's tomb. Though, as you can tell by the severity here, this one isn't necessarily designed to be a group's first adventure. And another clue, the entrance is at the bottom of a lake. That's a bit of a setback right away, not to mention the lake is inhabited by a bone-eating squid monster guardian, though it only attacks here if disturbed or if a party member lags behind. So, you enter a small portal on the lake bottom and climb down a slippery well, another minor setback, to meet the real guardians. 2 fossilized skeletons guarding a door with a cool sculpture hinting at the dungeon's boss. But even these skeletons only attack if you touch them or the door, which the party doesn't have to do because they have a choice between that door, through a barracks of more skeletons with some simple treasure, more sculptures, and a secret door, or from here, they can go through a cavern with a captured but escaped villager to chat with, a swarm of hungry glowing starfish, and a puzzle door that requires some knowledge from the sculptures to a room with some new magic items that will really help in the boss fight. So both paths lead to this final boss room where all the sculptures and possibly some visions that they've been experiencing finally make sense when they see this extraterrestrial construct intertwined with the soul of its long-dead prophet. And it's a sick battle because the construct can float around anywhere, including over the water in this room. The stone skeletons can only fight on the land or at the very bottom of this pool. The bone-eating squid is also here, but will only fight in the water, of course, and those magic items from earlier allow the party to have much more control over their movement and other creatures' movement in a watery environment. And of course, the room starts flooding. There's more info on the village, other NPCs, and more cool elements that I don't want to spoil in this video, but that comes out to be 6 actual rooms and about 9 encounters, depending on how you distinguish them, easily covering all 5 prompts of the 5-room method, with the important takeaway that each one of these 5 prompts can not only be rearranged, but combined, or duplicated, or split up and recombined into more interesting encounters. Okay, I think this is going to be a much nicer spot, but I don't know if you can hear the highway that is a lot closer than I thought it was. But in my opinion, as long as all of the 5 rooms are present in some way, you're still adhering to this 5-room method and setting yourself up for a fun adventure. And that's how we can even take this structure for an awesome short adventure outside of a dungeon. Concept: the party is tracking a criminal to claim a bounty. Entrance and Guardian: literally the guards at the town gate where this criminal is said to be in hiding. Maybe these guards don't really like bounty hunters because they tend to cause trouble. Certainly a fun roleplay encounter, possibly a fight, or possibly a setback that pushes them to find a more clever way into the town. Puzzle or role-playing challenge: once in the town, the party must gain clues of the criminal's whereabouts, essentially keys to unlock that location by talking to townsfolk or investigating areas they think a criminal would have passed through. Maybe all signs point to an NPC with a criminal history who gives them a riddle, or a passphrase, or an actual key that can get them into the criminal's hideout, probably through a secret door. Trick or setback: we've already hit a few areas where that could come into play, but maybe this is where the party finds someone exactly where they expect the criminal to be, but it's the wrong guy. But this guy can give them the true location in exchange for something he wants. Climax, battle, and a plot twist? Turns out the guards at the town gate were bribed by the bad guy, and he's been hiding under the floorboards of their little guard shack this whole time. Bring them all to justice and claim a sweet, sweet reward. The end. That's the Delian Bounty Hunt. Available nowhere, but let me know in the comments if that sounds cool, and maybe I can turn it into a 1-page PDF. But if you want something cool designed by me, go check out Delve, live on Kickstarter through the link below. It's got tons more awesome advice and tools for designing dungeon adventures, tips and new character options for better surviving them as a player, new magic items, traps and puzzles, monsters like the ones I mentioned, and more by your favorite YouTube creators, and 10 short dungeon adventures designed for minimal prep and maximum fun. That sounds corny, but I mean it. Now check out this video on your screen for Gary Gygax's own wacky dungeon design tips. Thank you to the Bob World Builder patrons who allow me to do what I do. Thank you for your support, and keep building.